All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are cranking the clock way, way back, about 2,500 years, to these incredibly tense, almost dreamlike moments right before one of the most legendary battles in all of human history. We are on the eve of Thermopylae, and what you have is this massive clash of cultures that is just about to explode into a clash of armies.
So just try to put yourself in the shoes of an Athenian leader for a second. You know that the biggest invasion force the world has ever seen is marching right for your home. You're desperate. So you turn to the gods. You send your people to the oracle at Delphi begging for some kind of guidance, for a little bit of hope. And this is the message that comes back. It's not a battle plan. It's not a word of comfort. It's a prophecy of complete and utter destruction. This, right here, was the kind of terror that was just gripping all of Greece.
But while the Greeks are over here wrestling with these prophecies of absolute doom, the Persian king, Xerxes, he's being driven by prophecies of a very different kind. To really get what's about to happen, we've got to understand the massive ambition, the political pressure that put his great army on the move in the first place.
Okay, let's really get into this, because a king, even a king like Xerxes, doesn't just decide to launch an invasion of this size on a whim. No, he had a whole chorus of voices whispering in his ear. And what's so fascinating is that a lot of them were Greek. You have these Thessalian kings basically promising to roll out the red carpet for him. You had exiled Athenian rulers who were just desperate to claw their way back to power. And then you have this character, Onomacritus, a professional oracle monger.
And this is where you see that propaganda, it's as old as time itself. Onomacritus was basically Xerxes' personal hype man. According to the historian Herodotus, he was very, very careful about which prophecies he shared with the king. He would cherry-pick all the good ones, the ones that promised a glorious God-approved victory, while conveniently leaving out any of the prophecies that hinted at, total disaster for the Persians.
So, you've got the Persians, totally gassed up on these visions of victory. Now, let's flip back over to the Greeks, because they were dealing with a completely different kind of message from the gods, one that wasn't about conquest at all. It was about pure, unadulterated terror and destruction.
And this really gets you right to the core of the Athenian mindset at the time. This wasn't just a military problem for them. It felt like the apocalypse was marching towards their front door. So they did the only thing they could think of. They sent a sacred delegation to Delphi to ask the Pythonist, the priestess of Apollo, what do we do? How do we save ourselves?
And the message they got back, it was just devastating. It was a vision of such total horror, it must have just paralyzed the city. This wasn't advice. It was a death sentence delivered by the gods themselves. I mean, you can't overstate the psychological impact of that. It raises this terrifying question. If the gods have already decided you're finished, what's the point of even fighting?
And this is where we get to the narrow pass of Thermopylae, because here, the story just takes this wild, sharp turn. While Athens is reeling from this psychic blow, a tiny, tiny force was gathering to actually make a stand. A force led by, the most mysterious and formidable warriors in all of Greece, the Spartans.
So the key thing to get here is just the sheer absurdity of this matchup. I mean, on one side, you've got Xerxes, who commands this enormous multinational force, an army built to just steamroll entire continents. And on the other side, a few thousand guys blocking a narrow path led by a corps of just 300 Spartans and their king, Leonidas. From the Persian perspective, this wasn't even a real military obstacle. It was just weird. In fact, Xerxes literally stopped his entire invasion for days, just waiting for them to get a grip, come to their senses, and run away.
But they didn't run. And as they just sat there, Xerxes' confusion only got deeper. So he did what any commander would do. He sent a scout, just a single guy on a horse, with a simple job. Ride up to the Greek camp, see what's going on with this bizarre little army that has the nerve to stand in his way, and report back.
And the report that this spy brought back must have sounded like complete madness. He didn't see men shaking in their boots or frantically sharpening their swords for one last desperate fight. Nope. He saw some of the Spartans just going through their athletic exercises like it was any other Tuesday. And even weirder, he saw others just sitting there calmly, methodically, combing their long hair.
This whole scene just left the Persians completely baffled. What on earth did this mean? It was so far outside of anything they understood about war. Was this some kind of pre-battle party? A religious festival? Was it just some crazy show of arrogance? Or were these men preparing for their own funeral?
So the spy's report just creates this moment of total cultural breakdown in the Persian command tent. To try and solve this riddle, the riddle of the Spartans, Xerxes turns to the one person in his entire massive camp who might actually have an answer.
Xerxes calls for Herodotus, who was a Spartan king himself before he was exiled, and now he's an advisor to the Persians. And the great king basically asks him, "What is wrong with your people? Are they insane? Why are they doing their hair when they should be begging for their lives?"
And Herodotus' answer, it just reveals this huge, uncrossable gap between their two worlds. He tells Xerxes, this isn't madness, it's a custom. The Spartans make themselves look their best, they adorn their hair, precisely at the moment they are about to risk their lives. He explains, look, these are the finest warriors in all of Greece, and they have come to this pass to fight for it, and they are fully prepared to die here.
And here it is, the climax of this whole strange prelude to battle. Xerxes, the most powerful man on the planet, hears that this little handful of men fully intends to fight his world-conquering army to the death. And his reaction, according to Herodotus, it's not anger. It's not even respect. It's laughter. He finds the whole idea so absurd, so fundamentally impossible to understand, that he just treats it like a joke.
That laugh, it just perfectly captures the whole moment. It's the sound of a superpower so confident in its own massive scale that it cannot even begin to comprehend the will of a people who are fighting for something more than just staying alive. It's the sound of two worlds colliding. And it leaves us with the one central question that the Battle of Thermopylae was about to answer in blood. What happens when an empire built on overwhelming power runs headfirst into an army built on unshakable purpose?